Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm diving into a topic that I haven't touched on before, sovereign wealth funds. In this video, I'm planning to take a look at what they are, how they operate, and try to understand how they impact global economies. So let's start with what they are. Sovereign wealth funds are state-owned investment funds, and their purpose is to manage and invest a country's national savings. These funds are typically created by countries with significant surpluses from commodities, such as oil, gas, and minerals, just to name a few of those commodities. There are a few other ways or sources that kind of feed into this mix, often being foreign exchange services as well as budgets actually being in a surplus. When you hear a government has a surplus, it means they've probably taxed their citizens too much and they need to use that money more wisely, and this is one of the ways that they use it. Now, the primary objective of them is to invest strategically to generate long-term returns, but also in doing so, they are going to bolster and promote economic stability whilst also allowing them to support major infrastructure projects or objectives for said country with the intention of essentially being able to develop. And they differ from traditional investment funds as well as pension funds, as like I said, they are solely owned by governments and not private entities or individuals. This gives sovereign wealth funds a unique role in global financial markets and allows governments to influence their economic growth, as well as allows them to diversify their national wealth. And the way that they're generally managed is by professional investment teams who make decisions on behalf of the government that align with the goals and objectives that they have. And the investment strategy is always going to vary depending on who we're talking about or what government we're talking about. But generally, the main things that align with what goes into these sovereign wealth funds are things like assets, bonds, stocks are probably the three most common. And then there's forms of things like private equity, as well as mass infrastructure projects, which should see a return in the future, depending on, again, where these projects are taking place. And the reason why they differ so much is that some focus on preserving national wealth, whereas some focus on actually making profit and returns with the intent to flow that money back into its citizens. While others aim to support domestic industries. A really good example of this is promoting economic development. You know, if you want manufacturing to take place in your country, a bit of upfront investment from the government is most likely going to help kickstart it or bolster it in place. Another avenue as well that these support are things like education and healthcare, which are two really critical components of any developing nation in the entire world. Having solid healthcare and education systems lifts our quality of life and improves our ability to get things done. And this is where examples come into play. There are several countries that have established incredibly successful sovereign wealth funds that have done nothing but provide for their citizens. Norway's government pension fund, also known as the Norwegian Oil Fund, is one of the largest. It was established in 1990 to manage the country's oil revenue. This fund in particular helps to maintain intergenerational equity, and it also supports the country in times of economic downturn, which is a massive cushion essentially. It's a safety net for when times get tough. These are countries that generally are going to be unscathed throughout that period, allowing them to continue to prosper while others might be doing it hard. And as a quick fun fact, as of its latest reportings in 2023, it is sitting at a valuation of approximately 1.4 trillion US dollars. Which is a pretty scary number. Now, an important thing to note is that the intention of them is for them to operate independently to the day-to-day operations that take place within the government, ensuring separation between political influence and investment decisions. And the idea behind this is that it's intended to maintain independence and integrity of them. As major shareholders of many companies, sovereign wealth funds often have the power to advocate for responsible corporate practices such as transparency. Another one is environmental sustainability, which is one we're seeing growing more and more as we move into this new world, and social responsibility, where this influence or power can contribute to the overall improvement of corporate behavior. Another one is that sovereign wealth funds can foster economic diversification within their own economies, and this one is a real positive for nations. By investing in various sectors or industries, these funds can help support innovation, infrastructure development, and job creation, which definitely pulls back on governments relying on specific resources or industries to generate their national GDP as a whole. Diversification is a really good thing. Now, let's talk about some of the cons. They definitely are not perfect by any means. They do come with some challenges and considerations associated with their overall operation. Transparency is a key concern. I mentioned just before, in a perfect world, the transparency of them and the independence between governments and the people making the investment decisions should be completely separated. But this isn't always the case. There are some concerns with specific sovereign wealth funds. I'm not going to name and shame any of them because I don't know enough about them to talk freely about it. However, there are transparency concerns about who is influencing decisions that are being made with the massive amounts of money that is being managed within, which then kind of feeds into that question of which ones completely are separated from government influence, because people with power like to retain power and they like to use power and gain power, and sovereign wealth funds being basically big kitty that people can dive into and spend the money from, it is a serious concern where governments could use that power and that influence to make decisions that would kind of give them strength in their ability to stay within government if they do things with the money that in the light of the public makes them look really good, which as an underlying effect raises concerns about national security, market manipulation, and I guess unfair competition as well. However, in reality, they are incredibly complex and require some pretty serious risk management to manage them successfully. So like I said, they're never going to be a perfect system, but they are a pretty cool idea if I don't say so myself. Now, understanding sovereign wealth funds is actually really important, and it's quite interesting as well as to why you should care about this. You are one person, a viewer watching a YouTube video. How much impact or influence can this have on your life? The thing you need to understand is that these funds represent a significant portion of global wealth, and they also play a significant role in global capital flows and investment strategies. They can have a substantial impact on recipient countries' economies and things that feed into things like infrastructure development as just one very simple example. Comprehending the purpose and operation of sovereign wealth funds also helps to navigate the discussion of economic policy, governance, and geopolitical dynamics of global finance, which is really just a complicated way of saying that understanding them is really crucial because it helps make sense of things like how governments regulate money, rules, and how they play with their spare cash on a global stage. Overall, sovereign wealth funds have emerged as significant players in global finance, managing vast pools of capital and influencing economic development. These funds provide governments with the ability to diversify their wealth whilst also contributing to long-term financial stability. And that is pretty much all I wanted to cover in today's video. I learned a lot. Hopefully you learned a bit. And if you did, hit that like and subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate the support and it goes a long way for the channel. And that is where I'm going to leave you for today. So have a good day, have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.